Mikasa Sukasa. You Eddie, right?
Yeah.
Look like Eddie Guerrero, man. You like to watch wrestling?
Yep.
Have you ever watched wrestling? On weed? That's the way to see it, man! It's what?
What up, world? It's your boy Physics, and you know what time it is. It's the last show of March, the greatest month of all time. It's your boy Physics, and I'm back after my birthday trip celebrating the big 3-5. Glad to be back with y'all. But on today's episode, we're talking about the supposed beef between MJF and Tony Khan, the superstar women that AEW wants, Arn Anderson looking at some issues that AEW might have, and a lot of WrestleMania news. And you'll be able to check that out right after this.
Really? This is my yard now. It doesn't matter what
Welcome back. If you're in the live news chat, if you have any comments, make sure right there. It could end up on the show. And if you are watching the replay, make sure to leave comments, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you could be tuned in the next time I go live. And I also do reply in the comments. So for our first news join of the day, the possible beef between MJF and Tony Khan. AEW President, CEO, General Manager, and Head of Creative Tony Khan reportedly had a heated discussion with MJF over the weekend. MJF spoke with Ariel Helwani to discuss interest from WWE, his AEW contract status, Cody Rhodes' departure, his relationship with WWE executive Bruce Pritchard, and other topics. Now, Fightful Select reports that Khan took issue with the interview being set up without notifying AEW's PR team. The interview led to a conversation between Khan and MJF over the weekend, which reportedly left both men frustrated. It was noted that MJF's contract status had also caused the young top AEW star to be frustrated as of late. AEW sources say they did not think there would have been an issue with the subject matter of the interview if it were set up with AEW's PR team first. MJF confirmed during the interview that his AEW contract expires on January 1st, 2024. So we technically have 2 more years to wait before he does anything. And admitted that he's not afraid to stir the pot until then. In an update from Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer, the issues that arose between Khan and MJF are now said to be settled. Meltzer noted that although the story is true, there was no fight or physical altercation, which, I mean, what is Tony Khan going to do if there was one between MJF and Tony Khan? I think it's really interesting because when you bring in a PR team, they are going over, they would have went over Ariel Hawani's questions and to see what he was going to talk about. And due to his character, he can talk about what's going on, as possibly of him going to WWE and stirring the pot till then. But they just wanted okay. I'm pretty sure they probably would have had X'd out his relationship with Bruce Pritchard, because it just gives a lot more doubt about him possibly staying there. Also with the possibility of him being frustrated with his contract, I would guarantee you that he's going to allow his contract to expire. He's not going to sign a 1-year deal or an extension with AEW. He's already signed till January 1st, 2024. That's already a long time for him. He needs to see how much money he can make. And I'm going to guarantee you for AEW to try to make sure that they keep him. We're going to have to go through a Daniel Bryan title reign. We're going to have to go through a CM Punk title reign, but then it's going to be MJF. Somewhere in between them or before, we don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if MJF beats Daniel Bryan and then MJF gets beat by CM Punk if he does decide to leave. But it's smart for MJF not to do an extension due to the fact that between WWE and between AEW, they're going to back the truck up. The Brinks truck is coming, and it would be stupid for him to possibly have a bidding war and go to the highest bidder, or not even the highest bidder, but the best contract that suits him creatively and financially. So it's going to be very interesting to see which side he leans on. I'm going to say, we're going to just every few months hear about his contract, every few months. And it really won't ramp up until probably mid 2023. Actually, no, it's probably going to ramp up January 1st, 2023. because it's going to be the countdown. And we're going to see what they do with him talent wise, as far as what he does in the ring. But speaking of talent, AEW has their eye on a lot of former WWE stars, superstars, from the women's division. And one of those women is Miss OnlyFans herself, Miss 10K in a day. Tony Storm is rumored to be signing with AEW soon. AEW officials reportedly have significant interest in signing Storm, according to Fightful Select. The interest is so strong that several talents outright expect Storm to join the company sooner than later. There were numerous AEW wrestlers who have been pushing for Storm to sign. Athena, formerly known as Ember Moon, is also rumored to be signing with AEW. It was noted that there have been at least light talks engaging interest between Athena and AEW. Those close to the situation know that there was a filling out process between the two, going back to not long after she was released from her WWE contract on November 4th. She became a free agent in early February when her 90-day non-compete clause expired. There's no word on if AEW will bring Athena in, but a company sources claim there does not seem to be a sense of urgency to lock her down to a contract. Other promoters report that Athena is being very selective in her indie booking, most likely to make sure that she's not tied down if she signs with AEW. Nixon Newell, formerly known as Tegan Knox, or just Knox, is another free agent that is a topic of discussion in women's wrestling. Nixon was released from her WWE contract on November 18th, and she became a free agent when her 90-day non-compete contract expired on Wednesday, February 16th. Newell hasn't wrestled since her WWE release and has been out of the ring since mid-October. Regarding Newell's pro wrestling future, as of a few weeks ago, she was keeping busy with trying to sort out visa issues, which have been an uphill battle for many wrestlers who suddenly find themselves as free agents. There was no word on if AEW, Ring of Honor, or Impact Wrestling may have interest in bringing her in. I'm going to guarantee you Tony Storm is a given. You now bring somebody in that's going to their TBS belt or the AEW Women's Championship. She could be a champion for either one, so that works really well. When it comes to Athena, she is a great hand in the ring. She can also be a champion. I would not mind seeing what Athena and Jade Cargill could do as far as when it comes to the TBS Championship. So that would definitely be interesting. And of course, Tegan Knox, aka Knox, Noelle Nixon. If everything is settled with her visa issues and her staying in America, I wouldn't be surprised if she gets scooped up very soon. I wouldn't be surprised that one of three of these women might pop up tonight on AEW. We would talk about that more once we get close to the end of the show, but that would not surprise me at all. But I will say the most interesting thing is, let's be real. AEW does, I mean, they want to build their stars. They built Jade Cargill, Britt Baker is theirs as far as the women's division. Serena Deeb kind of made her name on the indie scene, but same with her, with Diamante, with Thunder Rosa, that's NWA, her indie scene. She already had built her name up. She came in AEW as the NWA champion. So she was already kind of built up, but now they want to build it up more. They, like I said, for a few weeks, they moving away from the Joshi wrestlers, which kind of sucks. They're kind of useless. And if, the best thing where a lot of contracts are coming up in the next few weeks is to let them go and allow them to go back to Stardom or any Joshi wrestling promotion in Japan so they can do the thing that they love, because it really doesn't seem like there's a place for them here, especially with the possibility of 3 women from WWE coming in and raising it up, raising, eyes on a product as far as women's wrestling up a lot more, especially when it comes to Tony Storm and Ember Moon, aka Athena. So, I mean, just like WCW, AEW is great. They're building their own thing, but let's be real, a lot of their stars and who are going to be their stars are eventually going to be WWE wrestlers. I wouldn't be like right now. We have a good amount of homegrown AEW, well, not homegrown. A lot of them made their name somewhere else. But as far as the public is concerned, homegrown AEW wrestlers that are champions. But do not be surprised if in the next few weeks that majority of the champions, especially after Double or Nothing, are former WWE wrestlers. That would not surprise me at all. And when that happens, of course, the jokes will ascend, because that's what happens, because everybody is tribalism and everybody has to pick a side. Now, let's move on to the next segment, the growth of the AEW, and that is Arn Anderson seeing issues that are growing within AEW. And that issue is the growth of AEW roster has prompted a lot of debate amongst wrestling fans. On the plus sides, rotating talent in and out of storylines gives them more time off, keeps the characters fresh, allow them to do a lot of things. But the flip side of that coin is that it could be hard to generate and keep momentum when you're not regularly featured, when you're no longer on TV, and and there's not a huge following of wrestlers, of viewers going from AEW Dynamite and Rampage and going straight to Dark. That is a very niche thing that people are watching, but not everybody that's into wrestling is watching. That's a particular problem when it comes to the young performers that don't already have a connection with the audience. It's an issue that Tony Khan's brain trust is aware of, and one of those brain trusts is the legend, the Hall of Famer Arn Anderson. And he was asked in a recent and he was asked about it on his recent podcast, Arn, and this is what he said. He stated, "I agree 100%. My son, Brock Anderson, being one of those, if you remember correctly, his debut match was being partnered with Cody. They had a really good match with QT and one of the other kids, but it's been so far back, nobody remembers. And he has 3 or 4 weeks." And he continues. Now, to his defense, talking about Tony Khan, because people get sick of me singing Tony Khan's praises, but his intentions is because now he's assembled quite a hell of a talent roster to try to get everybody exposed. If you get 1 week or 2 weeks and then they move on, I get exactly what you're saying. In order to get a person over, you have to have about 8 or 10 or 12 straight weeks of good TV. Now, I'm invested in this guy. Tony knows what he wants out of the show. We support him 100%. I do agree that talent doesn't get exposed. Dante Martin is a very special kid. He got springs like nobody else in the business. Just a short time back, he had 2 or 3 or 4 really, really good weeks, and then now they disappeared down the dark. It's a dilemma that we have. We will figure it out. But when you're bringing in Daniel Bryan, you're bringing in CM Punk, and no matter what you've done prior to that, that's going to kind of push everybody else down a notch, because those guys cost a heap of money to employ. When you bring them in, they're going to take precedence over anything else you had going on. That's the dilemma that we have. We will figure it out, because Tony's intentions are giving people who are avid wrestling fans and intelligent folks what they want. The addition of Ring of Honor to Khan's portfolio might help with this problem, but we thought the same thing when they brought in Rampage, and it's been here for a few months, and we still have the same issue. Now, this goes back to a thing that Triple H said. And if you remember when Triple H found out about AEW, and of course, everybody wanted to talk about AEW, and he says, everything is different once you run a television show, because you do not have enough time to highlight everybody you want to highlight. You're going to get this huge roster. That's what happened with WWE. They got this huge roster to the point that you kind of had to break up the brand. They go back and forth every now and then. One few years, they're the super brand. If everybody goes back forth, then a few years, everybody split, because to give people focus, it's kind of hard to have people going on both shows. Now, every week nationally, AEW has 3 hours. Now, you have to dedicate a lot of those hours, like you said, to, who are the champions are on there. So they got time. Who are the people you're paying the most, which we all know is Chris Jericho, Daniel Bryan, CM Punk. Now they need airtime. Your EVPs, your Young Bucks. Kenny, he's gone, so that opens up a spot. But like I said, champions, Hangman Page. Now, boom, that takes up time. Time is already getting taken up. So, they want to use Ring of Honor as a development. So I wouldn't be surprised if people like a Dante Martin, Sonny Kiss. A lot of them make their way down. I mean, they just signed Keith Lee. Now you gotta give him time. These are people that already have names that if you take them off, they'll be okay. But now that you already brought them in, you got to build them up and make sure they're special because you have your biggest pay-per-view coming up, which is Double or Nothing in Las Vegas. So it makes sense. And I don't think they're going to figure it out. It's impossible. It's why there's going to be a mass exodus in the next few weeks of people being let go so they can try to figure out what to do next. And they want to go hard with Ring of Honor, which means a lot of people that could be stars in AEW are definitely going to Ring of Honor. I know for Tony, he wants to make sure it's on TV, but unless they keep the Sinclair broadcast going on with Ring of Honor, I wouldn't be surprised if it's on YouTube, and most likely YouTube only. If they can get a deal done with HBO Max and then it appears weekly on HBO Max, that might be really good. But knowing Tony, it might be a lot more smarter to get AEW on HBO Max or HBO Max Discovery, whatever it's going to be, because that deal is going through. But it's going to be very interesting to see where they go next with this. But this is going to be a problem they're always going to have unless they trim down a lot of the fat, which is kind of hard to do because, you need jobbers, you need good hands, you need people that are willing to lose to the superstars. But you also got to give the superstars a lot of time to do their thing because they're the ones bringing the money in. So it's going to be quite interesting to see what happens over the next few weeks. But this is going to be a problem they have for a long time. And you know what it is. It is WrestleMania week. Me and the crew, Laylo, Trav, Two-Face, will be bringing you our predictions tomorrow at 4:20 p.m. So be sure to check out the channel. But let's get to some WrestleMania news that's happening this week and beyond. The Wrestlers Early newsletter notes there have been no talks to a women's battle royale at this WrestleMania this year. It seems very packed up, but everything they're doing is kind of surprising because their ideal every year is to get everybody involved in WrestleMania. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Royal Rumble, Andre the Giant happens on SmackDown. Just to get it over with, but it probably will not happen during actual WrestleMania. PW Insider says WWE is bringing Shane McMahon to town for WrestleMania weekend, although they don't know if that means he'll be appearing on the show or on either of the two nights. I'm gonna guess that Shane McMahon is gonna come out as the possible wrestler going against. But I'm going to guess he's probably going to be the wrestler that's possibly going to go against Seth Rollins. They're going to have a lot of back and forth. And then Shane is like, no, you're not facing me. You're facing him. And then, of course, we're going to hear the actual American Nightmare music because I think Cody owns it. So, the whole AEW presentation. And then, boom, Cody Rhodes is there. New music hits. And we go from, American Dream to the American Nightmare. And it's Cody Rhodes versus Seth freaking Rollins. I feel like that's why he's being brought in. He's going to be brought in as a red herring. According to PW Insider, the WrestleMania 38 stage reveal will happen tomorrow via a Dude Perfect video. And one idea was to throw a football through a target that sets off pyro to reveal everything. Seems on brand. The KO show with Kevin Owens and WWE Hall of Famer Stone Cold Steve Austin is reportedly scheduled to close night one of WrestleMania 38. Austin was reportedly in great shape for WrestleMania, and it's believed that the talk show segment with Owens returning to a brawl, ending with a Stone Cold Stunner to send everyone home from AT&T Stadium. Dave Meltzer speculates on Wrestlers Over Radio the reason Kevin Owens and Steve Austin are set to main event WrestleMania Saturday is because WWE doesn't want to run the risk of anyone leaving after seeing Stone Cold. Makes sense. Just kind of sucks that, the women are not main eventing. They're going to happen before then. I honestly believe if Stone Cold comes out before the women, they're not going to leave. The only thing that makes sense to me, and I said this before when this news got brought, that if they were main eventing, that it should be a match and not just a brawl. If he's in the best shape of life, let's ring the damn bell and let's have like a 5-minute match. Let's just go for it. Let's have an official match rather than just a brawl, because that's the only thing that makes sense to have it at the end of the night. Have a talk show segment at the end of the night doesn't make sense to me, but having an actual match, having Stone Cold Steve Austin come back into the WWE fold as a wrestler and wrestling on the biggest stage, the grandest stage of them all. Sorry, it's not the biggest, it's the grandest. The grandest stage of them all only makes sense. It's the only best thing that is for business. Now let's talk about the future of WrestleMania, because I feel like we're going to get some hints on night 2 of what the future of WrestleMania will be. And that is The Rock wants to do WrestleMania 39, which we all know will be in SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, which The Rock was at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles to introduce the Super Bowl. And he hinted he couldn't give it all because he feel like he wants to do a lot more in SoFi Stadium. And he had to give you a taste of The Rock. But The Rock wants to do WrestleMania 39 per Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio. WWE's working ideal is to have him face Roman Reigns, of course, in Los Angeles next year, but are well aware his schedule could change. The man does a million projects. Young Rock is back on. Young Rock season 3 will probably be back on by the time WrestleMania is going around the corner. So anything can happen. He's doing movies. He does a lot of his own stunts. So there's a possibility that something could happen on set. Not gonna knock on wood that nothing happens, but it's a year from now. But we know that the battle for the head of the table and it's the signing of Wild Samoans and Rikishi, 2 Legends contracts, are all building up to have this big thing going on between Roman Reigns and The Rock. And don't be surprised if the Usos break up for a small bit. One is going to take The Rock side, one's going to take Roman's side, and they're going to face each other as a tag team before we get to WrestleMania. Because as we've seen in the past, The Rock likes to work his kinks out before he gets fully into the ring for WrestleMania. So don't be surprised if there's a match before with The Rock, one of the Usos, versus Roman and one of the Usos. So don't be surprised about that. But let's get to some quick hits. Paul Heyman re-upped his contract with the WWE as Richard Deitch guest on a recent edition of the Sports Media Podcast. Paul Heyman revealed he signed a new long-term contract with Vince McMahon's company last year. He stated, "This much I would say, I signed with WWE last year. It was a long-term agreement, and they created a situation where I would have been a fool not to take them up on their offer. So I'm locked in for a while." And hey, it makes sense. And he's one of the best brains. And what he does with Roman Reigns, what he does with Brock is magic. And I would like to see him do a lot more stuff with other people outside of him, especially because we don't have Talking Smack. And he was so great on Talking Smack. And one of the people that really got over Bianca Belair, especially how he talked about her and how he held her up at high regards every time he was on the mic. So hopefully they have a lot more for him to do, and it's not just Roman Reigns for the next year. Fightful also says multiple AEW deals will be coming up in May, which I talked about earlier, including Marco Stunt, who could be leaving the company. I wouldn't be surprised if some Joshi wrestlers will be going as well. During a Twitter spat over the end of their podcast, Mark Madden claimed Ric Flair was planning to go to AEW when the Plane Ride from Hell episode of Dark Side of the Ring aired. Now, Tony Khan doesn't talk to Flair and disinvited him from his birthday party. So, Ric Flair is persona non grata. They have no issue with him. So, it looks like he's pretty much done with wrestling, especially with all the allegations that came from Plane Ride from Hell. So yeah, on his Instagram, Miro said he's in Brooklyn shooting the pilot, which could be why he's still not back on AEW TV. So he's doing his outside thing, but hopefully he can get back in the ring and actually have a lot to do once he comes back. WWE is reportedly returning to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for a TLC, Tables, Ladders, and Chairs premium live event. A new report from Andrew Zarian of F4WOnline.com notes that WWE is scheduled to return to the Kingdom in September, and word is that will be for TLC 2022. A specific date and venue for the TLC show has not been confirmed as of this writing. Now, let's talk about what's going on in the world of wrestling tonight. And that is tonight's AEW Dynamite on TBS. We're aired live from the Colonial Life Arena in Columbia, South Carolina. Right now, we have Darby Allin versus Andre El Idolo, FTR versus the Gun Club, Orin Hart's Foundation Women's Tournament Qualifier, The Bunny versus Mysterious Wrestler, who will be signed by AEW on tonight's show, which makes me wonder if it's going to be one of the three, if it's going to be Tony Storm. All this Tony Storm news started to come out this past week about her signing with AEW, so that would not surprise me if she is the person that signs tonight, or if it's Athena that might sign, aka Ember Moon, that might sign with them, or if her visa is done, possibly Nixon Newell, aka Tegan Knox. And just 1 minute ago on his Twitter, Tony Khan writes, in a one-on-one battle of two great champions, former Ring of Honor World Champion, the Jay Lethal 72 AEW record, will take on former AEW World Champion Jon Moxley live on Wednesday night Dynamite. That match should be a banger. Moxley versus Jay Lethal. That's really the best match of the night. As far as everything we're getting so far. So he just announced that a minute ago. So be sure to check out Tony Khan's Twitter account, because he's going to give announcements of what's going on later tonight. He seems to be in a Vince McMahon mood, because usually they have everything settled before we even get to Wednesday. But hey, here we are, and that's going to be a banger of a match. But that's it for today. Thank you for joining me. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you were here with me, and I thank you for that. I'll see you on Friday. Make sure to tune in tomorrow as we give those WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2 predictions at 4:20 with the whole crew for that WoW Nation bell. Until then, peace.
Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to know when we go live next. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Wrestling on We, and thanks for watching.